You have been waking up with the strange feeling that someone is close, not physically at your door, not calling your phone yet, but close in the spirit, as if the silence around your life has started to shift before anything has visibly changed. You try to go through your normal routine, washing a cup in the sink, checking messages that still look empty, sitting in your car a little longer before going inside, and there is this pressure in your chest that does not feel like panic anymore. It feels like movement. For so long, nothing seemed to reach you. People forgot your name in rooms where you once gave everything. Conversations stopped without explanation. Doors stayed shut so long that you began to wonder if you had misunderstood God, misunderstood the promise, misunderstood the weight you had been carrying. But lately, the stillness has changed texture. You are not chasing anyone, yet you feel remembered. You are not announcing yourself, yet something in you senses that your name is being brought up somewhere you cannot see. This is not about becoming suspicious or dramatic. This is about recognizing that God often moves before he allows evidence to arrive. He stirs hearts before he sends messages. He burdens people before he reveals why. He wakes someone in the middle of their ordinary day and places your face, your work, your story, or your need before them in a way they cannot easily dismiss. And while you were thinking nothing was happening, while you were quietly healing from betrayal, while you were learning not to beg for space in anyone's life, God was not absent. He was keeping you hidden long enough for the wrong attention to lose access and the right people to be moved at the right time. That hiddenness was not rejection. It was protection with a purpose. The strange thing about this season is that it may not announce itself with thunder. It may begin with one person remembering you after months of silence, one message that feels too timely to ignore, one unexpected conversation that confirms something you prayed about privately, one person saying, "I don't know why, but you've been on my mind." When it happens, you will understand why God taught you not to force doors open with your own hands. The hardest part was not just being overlooked, it was watching other people move forward while you were asked to stay still with no explanation that made sense to your emotions. You saw people receive invitations, support, relationships, platforms, apologies, recognition, and second chances while you were learning to pray through disappointment without becoming bitter. You may have had moments when you almost reached out to someone simply because the silence felt unbearable. You typed messages and deleted them. You checked whether someone had viewed your story, whether they still followed you, whether they had moved on completely. Then something in your spirit pulled you back, not because you were too proud to speak, but because God was teaching you the difference between obedience and emotional urgency. There were things you wanted to repair, prove, explain, or resurrect, but every time you tried to move from fear, peace left you. That was not punishment, that was guidance. When God is arranging what belongs to him, he will not let you manipulate the timing and then call it faith. He will make you sit with the ache until the ache no longer controls your decisions. And maybe that is why this message lands so sharply for you, because you know you have been restrained from doing things your flesh wanted to do. You stayed quiet when you had the evidence. You walked away when you still cared. You stopped explaining yourself to people who had already chosen a version of you that made them comfortable. That kind of restraint is not weakness, it is training. And if that truth touches something raw in you, let this be a quiet moment to like this video, not as a performance, but as a small agreement with the fact that God has been doing something deeper in your silence than other people could see. The people being sent toward you are not being sent because you begged loudly enough. They are being moved because God can reach places your voice cannot reach. He can enter a memory, interrupt a plan, unsettle a conscience, or place a holy burden on someone who thought they were done thinking about you. But he waited until you were no longer desperate enough to mistake any arrival for deliverance. There is a hidden reason why God did not allow certain connections to return sooner, and it may be uncomfortable to admit. Earlier, you might have received them from the wrong place inside yourself. You might have treated one apology as proof that your worth had finally been restored. You might have mistaken attention for assignment. You might have opened the door to someone simply because they missed you, without asking whether they had changed. God knew that a sudden return at the wrong time could have pulled you back into a cycle he was trying to deliver you from. So he let the silence stretch until your discernment became stronger than your hunger to be chosen by people. This is where spiritual warfare often becomes subtle. It does not always look like obvious attacks, nightmares, arguments, or chaos. Sometimes it looks like timing, designed to test the part of you that still wants quick relief. A person may appear right when you are lonely. A familiar voice may come back when you are tired. An opportunity may arrive with flattering words, but no peace. That does not mean you should be afraid of everyone. It means you should stop calling every interruption divine just because it feels intense. The enemy can use intensity too. God's guidance may be powerful, but it does not create bondage, panic, manipulation, or confusion that pulls you away from prayer. When the right people are sent, there will still be a need for wisdom. You will still need to observe fruit, consistency, humility, timing, and alignment. Someone may say all the right spiritual words and still be operating from pride. Someone may claim God sent them and still refuse accountability. Someone may remember you suddenly, but their suddenness alone is not proof of assignment. The chosen person must learn to receive without surrendering discernment. Your softness is not meant to become gullibility. Your faith is not meant to become fantasy. God can send people, yes, but also teaches you to test what arrives. Notice whether their presence draws you closer to him or deeper into obsession. Notice whether peace grows over time or whether you feel pressured to decide before you can pray. Notice whether they honor your healing or demand access to the version of you they once controlled. Divine movement can be sudden, but it does not have to be reckless. You may have already seen small signs of this stirring, not in a dramatic way, but in the kind of ordinary moments that make you pause. Someone from the past may have mentioned your name to a mutual friend. An old coworker may have sent a brief message that seemed casual on the surface, but you felt there was more behind it. A person who never noticed your effort may suddenly be asking about what you are building now. Maybe you posted something simple, nothing emotional, nothing aimed at anyone, and the very person who had been silent appeared in the smallest visible way. Or maybe it has not happened outside yet, but inside, you keep sensing that God is preparing you to be found, not exposed, not chased, but found by the ones assigned to recognize what He placed in you. This can be difficult because your past trained you to expect abandonment after vulnerability. You learned to measure silence as rejection. You learned that when people disappear, you should not hope for return. But God is not limited to the patterns that wounded you. He can use distance to purify motives on both sides. He can let someone lose access to you long enough to realize they had taken your presence lightly. He can allow a helper to be delayed until your dependence is anchored in Him, not in the helper. He can cause a witness to appear at the exact moment when your obedience needs confirmation, not applause. Sometimes the person sent is not romantic, not glamorous, not someone you imagined. It may be an older believer who says one sentence that steadies your spirit. It may be a quiet professional connection that opens a lawful door without drama. It may be a family member whose heart has been softened after years of misunderstanding. It may be a stranger who sees your gift and treats it with respect before people familiar with you ever do. Do not reduce divine connection to one category. God's assignments are often more practical than your emotions expected. He sends people who carry keys, correction, covering, wisdom, resources, or honest witness. And sometimes He sends someone simply to remind you that your life was never invisible to Him. The point is not that everyone is coming back. The point is that God knows who must come forward and when their arrival will serve His purpose rather than your wound. A counterexample matters here because spiritual maturity requires us to say what this is not. This is not a reason to stare at your phone all day, waiting for a certain name to appear. This is not permission to search someone's life for hidden meanings, watch their every move, or convince yourself that their silence is secretly love because you felt something deeply. God does not need obsession to perform guidance. He does not need you to decode every delay until your peace disappears. A strong feeling can come from trauma, loneliness, attachment, grief, fear, or desire. Not every burden is prophecy. Not every dream is instruction. Not every repeated thought means you are supposed to act. There is a difference between being prompted by the Holy Spirit and being pulled by an unhealed pattern. One leaves room for surrender. The other demands control. One can wait without losing its center. The other becomes restless, suspicious, and emotionally dependent. If someone is truly being sent by God, you do not have to abandon wisdom to make room for them. You do not have to lower your standards of peace, character, honesty, or obedience. You do not have to betray the healing God has done in you just to prove that you believe in divine timing. When God sends a person, their arrival will not require you to become less sober-minded, less prayerful, less honest with yourself. And if the connection is romantic, it must still be tested by patience, clarity, consistency, spiritual fruit, and mutual surrender to God's will. No one should be allowed to hide manipulation under spiritual language. No one should make you feel guilty for needing time to pray. No one should rush you into emotional commitment by saying, "God told me," while refusing to live with integrity. The right person, the right helper, the right reconciler, the right witness will not need to overpower your discernment. They will be willing to stand in the light. They will be willing to let time reveal what words can only claim. That is why this end season requires both openness and restraint. You can believe that God is sending people and still keep your heart guarded in a holy way. You can receive movement without surrendering your peace to it. The strange beauty of God's timing is that He often prepares the one being found and the one being sent without letting either person see the full picture. While you were learning how to stop performing for approval, someone else may have been learning how to obey a burden they could not explain. While you were being corrected in private, they may have been humbled in their own way. While you were healing from the sting of being misjudged, they may have been discovering that their first interpretation of you was incomplete. This does not mean everyone who hurt you is coming back changed. Some people remain exactly where they chose to remain, and you must let them. But it does mean God can work on hearts outside your sight. He can disturb someone's comfort with truth. He can place a memory of your kindness in front of them when they are tempted to keep believing a lie. He can cause someone who once dismissed you to see your obedience through a situation that reveals character. He can send a person who never knew your private prayers but speaks directly to the thing you asked God about in secret. That kind of confirmation is not forced. It is recognized. You know the difference when you're honest. Forced confirmation requires you to bend reality until it fits your desire. God-given confirmation brings a settled clarity that does not need to be advertised. It may still make you tremble, but it will not make you frantic. It may surprise you, but it will not require you to disobey what God has already shown you. If this part of your journey has been marked by waiting, answer this in the comments with honesty. What has God taught you to stop chasing while you wait for Him to send what is aligned? That question matters because the waiting was not empty. It was exposing what had power over your decisions. It was showing you where you still confused access with love, speed with certainty, and recognition with calling. God was not only arranging people, He was arranging you. He was making you steady enough to receive without worshipping the instrument. He was making you humble enough to be helped without becoming entitled. He was making you discerning enough to know that a door can be open and still require prayer before you walk through it. There is another layer that many people miss. Being chosen does not mean being constantly visible. In many cases, it means God hides you until your identity no longer depends on being seen. Hiddenness strips away the applause you thought you needed. It reveals whether you will still be faithful when no one is clapping, when no one is checking on you, when no one understands why you keep showing up. You may have been serving in small ways that looked insignificant, helping someone who could not help you back, praying for people who never knew, doing honest work in a place that did not value you, choosing not to retaliate when the story was told unfairly. Those choices were not wasted. They formed a kind of spiritual weight that loud people cannot imitate. God often trusts hidden people with sudden movement because the hidden place has taught them not to confuse attention with approval. When they find you, and some will, the danger will not only be rejection, the danger may be exposure. Sudden attention can be as testing as sudden abandonment. A door opening can reveal pride just as quickly as a door closing can reveal fear. This is why God has been shaping your inner life before sending outer confirmation. He does not want the people coming toward you to become your new source of identity. He does not want an apology to become your altar, a connection to become your savior, or an opportunity to become the proof that you are loved. You are loved before they arrive. You are called before they recognize it. You are accountable to God even when someone powerful notices you. The people being sent may play a role, but they are not the foundation. They may carry instruction, help, honor, reconciliation, or access, but they cannot replace the voice that sustained you in the wilderness. Remember that when the movement begins, do not become so grateful for the messenger that you forget the one who sent them. Do not let flattery undo the discipline that silence built. And do not assume that every person who finds you has the same purpose. Some will be there for a conversation, some for a season, some for correction, some for partnership, and some simply to confirm that God kept his eyes on you when you felt buried. Spiritual warfare around this kind of transition often comes through premature interpretation. Before anything has fully formed, your mind may try to run ahead and build a whole story. You may start imagining how every conversation will end, what every message means, whether this is the breakthrough, whether this person is the one, whether this door is finally the answer. That is where you must slow down. The enemy does not always need to stop a divine connection. Sometimes he only needs to make you mishandle it. He can tempt you to speak too soon, attach too quickly, defend yourself too aggressively, or reveal sacred details to people who have not earned trust. He can make you so afraid of losing what God sends that you cling to it instead of stewarding it. This is why peace must become more than a feeling. Peace must become a practice. It looks like pausing before responding to a message that triggers old pain. It looks like praying before accepting an invitation that seems exciting but feels slightly off. It looks like asking God, what is this person's assignment in my life, if any, instead of asking only, do they like me? It looks like noticing whether you become more obedient after interacting with them, or more distracted, more grounded, or more anxious, more honest, or more performative. Sometimes your body will remember danger before your mind has language for it. Sometimes your spirit will feel resistance even when the opportunity looks impressive. Do not dismiss those signals just because you are tired of waiting. At the same time, do not become so guarded that you reject every help God sends. Trauma can disguise itself as discernment. Pride can call itself protection. Fear can sound spiritual when it says, I do not need anyone, but God never designed your calling to be lived in isolation forever. Hidden preparation is not permanent hiding. There comes a time when he brings witnesses, builders, helpers, and voices into the story. The balance is not paranoia and not naivety. It is prayerful observation. It is letting people show you who they are over time. It is receiving with gratitude while keeping your obedience anchored. It is understanding that what is sent by God can survive being tested by wisdom. When the movement comes without warning, it may feel almost too quiet at first. A name you have not heard in months may appear in a conversation. Someone may ask for your help in an area you thought no one noticed. A message may come from a person who has no idea they are answering a prayer you whispered on a difficult night. You may be invited into a room you did not campaign to enter. You may receive an apology that is not perfect, but is sincere enough to show that God has been dealing with a heart. Or you may receive no apology at all, but instead, God sends new people who do not require you to keep proving your innocence. Either way, your response matters. Do not perform shock just to make the moment feel bigger. Do not overshare because you are relieved. Do not punish the people God sends for the wounds caused by those who left. Do not give immediate access to everyone just because the timing feels spiritual. Let the fruit speak. Let consistency gather evidence. Let humility have time to reveal whether it is real. The chosen life is not about being dramatic when God moves. It is about being sober enough to handle movement without losing your center. You may need to answer kindly but slowly. You may need to forgive without reopening a door. You may need to accept help from someone while still keeping healthy boundaries. You may need to admit that God used a person you did not expect because you had become too narrow in your imagination. Sometimes the divine connection looks ordinary because God is protecting it from your need to romanticize everything. Sometimes the person sent does not come with emotional fireworks, but with a steady presence, a wise sentence, a practical answer, a clean motive. Pay attention to that. The kingdom of God often moves through quiet obedience, more than spectacle. A person can be sent to find you and still be imperfect. A door can be God-given and still require effort. A reconciliation can be real and still need boundaries. A new connection can be meaningful and still not be ultimate. This is the nuance that keeps you safe. Sudden does not mean careless, and divine does not mean unchecked. So when you feel that inward sense that something is approaching, do not return to the old version of yourself that chased, begged, monitored, explained, and strained to make people see what God had already named. Stand where obedience has placed you. Keep doing the next right thing that is in front of you. Wash the dishes, finish the work, tell the truth, keep the boundary, pray without dramatizing the silence, sleep without rehearsing every possible outcome. If someone is being sent, they do not need you to abandon your peace in order to find you. God knows your address in every sense of the word. He knows how to reach the hidden room, the quiet account, the overlooked gift, the wounded heart, the faithful servant no one celebrated. He knows how to place your name where it needs to be spoken without making you advertise your pain. He knows how to move a helper, a witness, a reconciler, a protector, or a key voice at the moment when their obedience and your readiness meet. And he also knows how to block what only looks sent but carries confusion. That is why surrender is not passive. It is disciplined trust. It refuses to force what God has not released. It refuses to worship what finally arrives. It refuses to turn being chosen into superiority. You were not hidden so you could feel above people. You were hidden so pride, fear, desperation, and false dependence could lose their grip before the next assignment found you. The ones who are meant to find you will not need you to become frantic. The ones not meant for you will reveal themselves when they cannot control your pace, your peace, or your obedience. This is the quiet final truth. God did not preserve you all this time just to make you chase what he already knows how to send. When the right movement begins, it will not feel like you are dragging destiny by the arm. It will feel like something finally reached you without you betraying yourself to be found.